is we had several lien holders that had to be notified and served with the complaint. One of those lien holders was the Virginia Department of Taxation, actually. And so we did have an issue with that. They have voluntarily answered the complaint. We had another person that, named Letitia St. John that we could not get service on, and so we have attempted that service at a new address, and I'm just waiting on that. That's another lien holder. So that's what the holdup has been. I don't know what was up with the Department of Taxation, but we finally dealt with it through the Attorney General's office. But just so you all know, we are working on it. Those were the issues.
Okay,
So hopefully we'll have a court date soon.
very good. Okay, that's over there on Tunstall Avenue near Miller Field. All right, we're gonna move right along for the rest of
I'm
this.
gonna go.
Yes, be safe. Be safe, I believe it's raining. You have before you a question of yet another stop sign on Main Street, which would be 3 in a row, would it not?
It would be 3 blocks in a row for a 3-way stop.
All right. This request was made by, was it Miss Wilma Townsend?
It was requested previously to the previous council, and it was rejected by the previous council. She has brought it up as a result of the
And she's called me 4
other
times since
signs
last
coming
week.
up.
Right.
So, she would like a 3-way stop at her corner, and she's quite persistent.
Like King Solomon said, let's cut it in half
Right.
and put the stop sign in the middle of the daggone block.
Because really, if you look at what Miss Wilma's about, you know, it's really more, the stop sign really makes more sense at her house because they got the school kids over there.
If you think about one thing too, we have the 4-way stops on Dillard Street on the south side of Dinwiddie, and she's requesting that it be on Dillard Street again, which is roughly central
She's citing, the reason she's requested, this is near her home where her grandchildren plays.
for our grandkids.
Okay.
And she said it's a bus stop there too.
I just said it was a bus stop.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah.
What is council's pleasure on this? Has the committee made a recommendation? I thought the committee initially recommended.
We didn't really do anything
We
because
haven't done anything with it. If you'd like to go back to full committee, we can do that, but I think that there was some interest by council to just go ahead and take it to council and see where the chips fall.
Is any motion before the council with some more time, or?
well, I tell you, if we don't act, you know, we're gonna have another showcase in town hall.
That sounds like a motion, Mr. Miller. All right, is that a motion, Mr. Miller?
Yes, a motion.
All right, decide the nature of the bus stop. Mr. Miller has moved and Mr. Morgan has seconded. To add a 3-way stop sign at Man and Harris Street. All in favor say aye.
Hiller.
Oh, at Man and Dillard, I'm sorry, Man and Dillard. All right, all opposed? That motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
One more phone call.
Ongoing projects, we just did number 1.
And we've torn down the house on North Main Street. I've still got to seed and do some other stuff, but we'll be moving over to Broad to finish one of the houses that's in the East End project over on Broad Street. That'll be the next one.
This next one's gonna be a little difficult here. Meals tax, got some issues here.
I've got one thing, the last council meeting, I think council voted and instructed that the June 20th deadline be the date that meals taxes, penalties, and interest would start to accrue on outstanding principals. However, before that last council meeting, I had asked Brittany to send a letter out, and that letter said July 1st, and I do think we need to stick with what was sent in the letter previous to the last council,
I think that's fine.
if that's okay with you guys. It's 10 more days, but they do have in hand a hard copy of a letter that said that the penalty and interest would start after the 1st of July, if that's okay with you guys.
Okay, so that'll be July 1st.
Yeah, and as you can see, we have 4 businesses past due for April. And in addition, I have a letter. I bring it to your attention because it does say a formal request, and it is a letter asking that the town suspend the collection of meals tax.
What's got,
Yeah, I think we talked last time, if the meals tax is being collected, I don't think the suspension really is possible by state code. Tessie can tell you different, but I don't think you can relieve the obligation to pay that which,
Because
It's
that's
previous.
like, you're taking money that's not yours to begin with.
it would
because
have to be something moving forward. If you were gonna do it, say July 1st, we're gonna
Right.
suspend it or something, but the previous, I don't think the state code has a provision in there to allow that, merchant to retain that money, to keep that money.
The letter mentions Virginia Beach. Are we aware of any localities around, not that it makes it right, but any localities around here waiving the meals
I
tax?
do not know of any.
I know it's a big,
Well,
Sure,
is Virginia Beach actually suspending it or just prolonging it?
I don't know the
they're not
answer to
charging
that,
it.
but
They've suspended, they're not charging, the consumers are not paying meals tax.
Well,
But it's
that's
not being-
different. That's
yeah.
different than what, if we want to turn around and say, okay, that they're not gonna pay it, but we're talking about things that were already paid,
Agreed.
so.
so you'd have to pick a date in the future, July 1st, August 1st, whatever date it was, and say, merchant does not need to collect meals tax
Right.
on this particular date moving forward. So.
Virginia Beach right now has no meals tax.
Shocking.
Exactly. But now, this letter, I mean, we need to be, it's a letter, it's a public document. Mr. Mitchell is saying also that, the very first sentence mentions about the ability to pay that which they have, am I reading that right? There's a two-part request here.
Now, one thing they have with this is he is also a business that doesn't benefit from closing the street down on Friday and Saturday night.
That is true.
Because he is on the other end of it.
But he also has a parking lot, I mean,
True.
But yeah, we want to, what is council's pleasure? I mean, is there any interest in doing away with the meals tax for a month or two or three?
Well, just like we said before, it's not a tax that they pay the customers paying it.
Is that gonna,
And you can't do for one and not do for the other.
suspending the taxes, is that gonna give them more business?
That's the question no one knows the answer to. For me, it doesn't affect my behavior, but then again, my wife and I both have good jobs. But for some families, it might make a difference whether they go out once a month or not at all. I just don't know.
I can say this, in my tenure here, meals tax has steadily risen over the course of my 9 years here. So I don't think it has necessarily been a deterrent, because we can see trending where collections are actually increasing during each
That's
year.
10% counting that we're doing the sales tax here and that state tax. You got 10% on your bill.
It's 6.5 for us and what, 4.5 for the state.
It's like
so
11,
it's actually
8.
11.
It's like 11 something.
I think it's more.
Mr. Allman.
Are we pretty much on par with everybody around us for meals tax?
Yeah, we're 6, actually, some farms, I think 7. The most a town can charge is 7 or 7.5, and I want
We're
to say
entitled to go to 7.5
Yeah.
by state code, but we're at 6.5.
Crew's 6.5. I think Cambridge is either 6.5 or 7. South Hill, I want to say 7. Yeah, we're not in a bad aberration by any means.
So, are we talking about getting rid of what's owed, or are we talking about suspending the collection of it in the future?
They're asking because of the pandemic to maybe motivate people to go out to eat for Blackstone to not have a meals tax for several months, to try to encourage people to go out to eat.
How much do we make on meals? How much do we get on meal taxes on the average per
Well,
month?
it's gone down obviously, but we're $45,000 a month. We'll pick up between 550 and 600,000. I think last year we may have been a little over 600,000. If we do the math, so you're
Based on, April and May, it would be interesting to see what the meals tax is for those months.
I think we
because-
looked at it that we
Because
about an
I'm sure
average
they
of
haven't-
about $15,000 a month decrease
Yeah.
from year over year.
But I think the last two,
How much is that drop? I mean, are we only getting 10,000 a month instead of 50?
Right.
No, we're
So-
getting, I think we're getting about 35 or 40 instead of 50. And I think that, those are the numbers we've seen. I don't know if we have
Okay.
3 or 4 months, full months of it, because I think it started in March. So it would be a portion of the April collections and then all the May collections.
April's, that's March was bleak and April was bleak because everybody was, that's all we did was watch news about how the sky was falling, and it's still
Just remind
bad.
you that this is your biggest tax collection of all.
Bigger than real estate and personal property combined.
And I don't know if y'all remember, but Councilman Nash brought it up, and he used McDonald's as an example, that their registers are already set at collecting the meals tax, and he didn't know if some people, like the larger restaurants, could go back and change.
Right.
Remove that from their register.
And are we gonna go, but there's 27 establishments in Blackstone that charge a meals tax, are we gonna go behind and go to every one and say, look, no, you don't charge meals tax this month?
Yeah.
'Cause some of them may still charge it accidentally and still collect it.
Right.
We didn't make a lot of friends on the meals tax audit. There was some resistance on that as well, but we could do another audit next year just to make sure everything was on above board.
I'm not hearing, I don't wanna put words in y'all's mouths, but I'm not hearing the desire to suspend the meals tax in the town of Blackstone. Okay, so what is the issue, is there any, going once, going twice? What about the first part of his letter? I guess that he just falls into the, we'll work with those people on the paint, okay.
I think the first part is, I don't think you really, I personally don't think if the taxes have been collected that you can suspend payment to the town. I think you just simply have to say, if suspension takes place, it would be beginning June 15th or June, whatever, but,
Well, a tax, the state does a tax holiday for school supplies for some weekends, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
I know where you're
Labor Day
going, I know where you're going with
I know where
that.
you're going too.
It's not a bad idea.
maybe do it for a weekend.
Restaurant Appreciation Month or week or Arts and Crafts, well, but that's something we gotta do after tonight. We can't do that tonight, I don't think. Unless y'all got a,
I think we need to we could entertain that later.
Certainly.
all right.
Okay.
So, hearing no motion on suspension of the meals tax, we'll move right along. Street, Mr. Norbeck, this is your part of the agenda with ongoing projects, street improvement projects, nothing to report.
I do want to bring up traffic calming devices. I think
Please
I
do.
see more and more and more. What I would like to do is create some kind of product, because we're going to get a bunch of them. We did the ones on Harris Street. I think there's a gentleman now on Lester Street that's quite interested in having them. I've been approached by the residents of Viewbank Street, and I think probably what we need to do is make sure everybody knows. We just need to take it to street committee and come up with a policy, Having these things is not a bad idea if it's a dead-end street or something like that, but through streets like Oak Street probably is not a great place to be doing this, despite you may get some requests to do them. So we just need to kind of standardize where and when. Like Pickett Court may be a good candidate for
Agreed.
speed bump,
Yep.
things like that. So there was a gentleman who contacted the mayor on Facebook, and the mayor forwarded it to me. And I think the thing to do is just make sure that the street committee has an opportunity to sit down and look at these either individually or as a matter of policy. And because I think you're going to get a lot of them. And turning down one and not the other, and the rationale why you did
You
that.
might be able to establish maybe a maximum street count. VDOT's got street counts for our streets. You may be able to say, any street that has less than 200 vehicles a day, we consider it. Something
There
like
you go.
that.
That may be the protocol.
All right, moving along to Wigglesworth, nothing to report. East End,
The bids did come back, and for 6 units, 3 of those are in a triplex that is in the neighborhood, and then there's 3 single-family homes. The rehab board did recommend approval and assigning these to contractors. The 410 East Broad Street would be SS&S Construction. Viewbank Street, and the 405 Broad Street, the 509 Broad Street would be Harvey's Enterprises. We've worked with them before. And then 405 East Broad Street would be Ricky Garrison's group that Divine Builders. And the recommendation from the rehab board was to go ahead and award those to them.
all right, is there a motion?
It took place today.
I got a question. It's, which is the 509, this is renovation,
I think these are all renovations. None of these are
Okay.
new houses. These are all renovations,
including booth,
including Booth.
they just gonna renovate?
Gonna renovate.
Okay,
it.
let's
Yep,
go.
it's all renovation.
Okay, all right.
And we rely on Earl Howard, who's the inspector, to tell us whether it's too far gone or not too far gone.
I need a motion to approve those renovations.
So move.
All right, I'll give a motion to Mr. Miller, second to Mr. Morgan. Dollar value, because it's over 10,000, starting with Colonel Tom.
Aye.
Aye.
That's all right.
Alright,
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Weatherization, very quickly, as you know, we don't have that included in the budget, but it is near and dear to my heart. And Yvonne has made contact with the Telemon Corporation, which is actually the individuals that are supposed to be doing weatherization in our area. They just don't have the resources to do that many, and certainly not that many in Blackstone. So we'll communicate with Telemon to see if we can get that done, and see if maybe we can get a house still accomplished next year using their funds. New homeowners program, she does have, it's actually 5 individuals that are interested in the project, and we hope to make homeowners of them in the East End or in other locations in town where we can access relatively inexpensive parcels. And what Earl's been doing is buying them at tax sales. And the next time tax sale comes up, Earl may buy them and build a house on them. So she's working on that. New business. I know it's a bad time to spend money, but we have for the past 2 years been saving money, saving our shekels every month, and we put aside $196,697, and we accomplished that as of about the 15th of May. Dan had asked that back in March, if you can see on the purchase order attached, he had submitted, and it's in the budget, and he'd asked if we could go ahead, and you can see my chicken scratch at the top says hold. That's right about COVID-19 time.
Yep.
And I said, we're not gonna do anything right now. We do have the money set aside. It is electric money, 100%. And I'm asking to issue a purchase order in the amount of $196,697. It's being purchased through the Sourcewell contract, which is an NJPA, like a national thing where we bought the last digger, or the last bucket truck.
This is replacing a truck that's 20 years old.
Yeah, it was, I was here when we bought it last time. It was
25 years old.
Probably 95 or 96.
All right, I need a motion for council to approve the purchase.
So moved.
There's a second? All right, Ms. Jones has seconded. Roll call vote, starting with Colonel Tom.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 6-0. And then you got another oh no,
And this is something that Josh has just before the council meeting submitted, and you guys have voted that CDL drivers will get $14 an hour. He's got some drivers right now that have not gotten a CDL, so they're just driving vans, okay? His recommendation is that those folks without the CDL in the future, and any driver that comes to us and cannot or does not have a CDL, and they're gonna drive a van for us, he's recommending $12 an hour with anybody with a CDL with the passenger certification to drive the bus. Now, somebody may come to you with a CDL, but they have to have that passenger certification or licensure. And we can wait on this if you'd like and talk a little bit more about it and maybe talk to the drivers and find out what we've got going on. We recommended raising up the rates, salaries, hourly rates to $14 in an effort to be fair. So we want to make sure what we're doing is still fair. I think Josh has his best intentions, has a motivation to get the CDL folks up, and then anybody that wants to join them can make $14 an hour.
do you want to vote on that tonight, or maybe could we have, what would that do to the budget roughly? Just, it would be
Well,
minor
tell you the
impact?
truth, out of pocket, it would decrease because it's
Okay,
for at least two positions, it would be less.
and what, y'all want to approve that tonight?
So moved.
Mr. Miller has moved. I'm gonna give the second to Mr. Morgan to approve the request by Transit Director Worrell. Any questions?
That means that two people are gonna have their salaries reduced.
No,
No.
because we're not at 14 yet.
Okay, okay,
That would start July 1st,
gotcha.
but there's
Okay.
two positions, and my understanding from originally would only be for new hires. And that's why I say Josh just came to me just before the meeting and said, I have two employees now that do not have a CDL certification for passengers, so they can drive the small vehicle. And I think it's under 14 passengers that they're allowed to drive, basically a van. They can drive that, but they have not been able to get themselves certified or.
What do they
passenger.
currently make?
I don't know right offhand, it's
Make
probably
more than
10 bucks an
12,
hour
or
or
they
something,
don't make-
$9.50 an
okay.
hour or something like that. I don't think they make a heck of a lot.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries 6-0. You have before you the surplus property list.
It's pretty basic stuff. There is one vehicle on there. It's a Chevy Venture that belongs actually to the bus system. It's an old minivan I think they got when they first got started. and
I
it's
drive
been-
one.
It's been replaced.
Mine's
There's
2003.
also, generators from buildings that we've torn down. But what I wanted to point out is that the Venture, the police department chief has asked to buy it for $500 to use as a transport for guys that are in academy and that sort of thing. So when I pay them mileage and that sort of thing. Chief had asked to purchase it for $500. The bus system, DRPT, which are the folks in Richmond, have said that was satisfactory to them. And I would expect that he would pay for that out of separate monies other than the town
Okay,
funds.
all right. What's your pleasure, members of the council?
And there's in there also about the computers.
Yeah, the computers, the fire department would like to have the computers, which don't bring much in a scrap situation.
If Eric Stiles says he can use them, I believe me, he can use them. That man knows his computer. So does council wish to declare surplus that which has not been asked for and then sell the Venture to the chief for $500 and let the fire department have the computers? Is that a motion?
So moved.
All right, we'll give Lonnie that motion and Ms. Jones a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 6-0.
The next two items are resolutions, and we've been over this ground
Yep.
last month, but USDA did remind us that they would like to have this resolution of governing body. You guys have already approved these purchases. but we did not bring it to you in a resolution form, and USD is asking us to do so. The first is for the mini excavator, expected at $66,000 with a $35,000 grant, the difference being financed. And the second one is for the fire truck. So resolution is needed for the funding for a new fire truck. Estimated purchase price is $675,000. Resolution makes the town eligible for a $50,000 grant. We have $350,000 cash that we'll put towards it, and then the difference would be loan or finance.
Let's take them separately if you just don't mind. I need a resolution for the $66,000 mini excavator, that resolution. The town will be eligible for a $35,000 grant. Who would like to make that motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Miller has seconded. Roll call vote because of the dollar figure, starting with Colonel Tom.
Aye.
Aye.
Alright,
Aye.
That motion carries 6-0. And then the resolution number 2 regarding the fire engine. This is for a purchase price of $675,000, and the town will be eligible for a $50,000 grant. Who'd like to make that motion?
So move.
Colonel Tom has moved. Who seconds? All right, Ms. Thompson second. Another roll call vote by charter.
Aye.
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 That motion also carries 6-0. Just a formality, and then moving along to B&B Consultants.
This is a little different. Usually we do a general services contract and we assign task orders individually.
Yeah.
But as you know, this project, East End, second phase, and then some improvements at the water treatment plant, are being funded by USDA. They wanted it to be done differently. They want to see a different and separate and distinct contract rather than a task order. Included here is an approved agreement that USDA has signed off on, has been signed by our engineer. I have not signed it because of the dollar value, but this is $110,400, and it's for the engineering services associated with the second phase of East End and improvements to our water treatment plant. And this is the money that we've already borrowed, that hopefully that we expect at a 1.3% rate that we will close with USDA.
All righty, members of council, what is your pleasure? That's $111,400 for B&B. This is paid by grant too? partially?
No grant. This is all financed.
Part of our local money.
Yeah, and
So-
we're not
so
proposing any rate
Not
increases,
getting anything from USDA?
not in grant. Here's why. We are a victim of our own success. Our system is in a condition financially that it is deemed not eligible for grant money.
We should apply for the ladder truck in 2011.
We're not as desperate as perhaps some other communities, and you should take pride in that. Everybody should take pride in that.
I'd rather be in that
Staff, everybody,
position. I would.
council.
What's your pleasure, members of council? We need a motion to approve this if you wish. This is B&B Consultants, $111,000 for their services rendered.
So moved.
Second.
Colonel Tom is second in Mr. Miller's motion. Another roll call, starting with Colonel Tom.
Aye.
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 That motion also carries 6-0.
To remind you, or if you didn't know, if I hadn't told you already, we're going to divide the project into two distinct bids. The first will be the water treatment plant work, and then the east end will be a separate contractor because they're two different types of work.
Okay, and then
We're going to run through all the bids that we do every year, this time of year.
we have exterminator bid.
Exterminating bid and the recommendation is Central Virginia Exterminating at $1,623.
Okay. Need a motion to approve that bid?
If you want me to do them all, you can lump them in.
Let's go ahead and, we can take them lump sum with the council's pleasure. Got the exterminating, what's next?
Generator maintenance, that's going out and checking the oil levels and making sure the generators or pump stations and things will start. Only bid received was $6,650 from Standby Systems. And last year, I believe it was Caterpillar that hit it, and it was at $12,838. So it looks like a dramatic reduction now.
That's good news. And what's some more bids?
Turf management, this is a little different. I was not going to make a recommendation to do this. We received two bids for, and this is basically fertilizing and making the grass pretty at the medical center and the town square. And we added the front half of Sea Park this year. We received two bids. B.L. Davis Lawn Care and Landscaping and Lawn Solutions for You, who does it currently. B.L. Davis was the lower bidder, but did not have and could not provide his applicator's license required by the Virginia Department of Agriculture. In doing so, he also called Jennifer today and felt like his bid was too low and he was voluntarily withdrawing it. So I would make the motion to enter into agreement with Lawn Solutions in the amount not to exceed $10,600. Now, that does include doing Sea Park now.
The front half.
The front half of Sea Park, exactly. So it is an increase of scope from last year, but it's gonna look mighty fuzzy, just like it does over the medical center.
How much
Greg?
were we paying last year?
It was appreciably less because it did not include Sea Park. I don't know the exact figure, but I would say it was probably maybe $6,000, $7,000.
I'll get it for you while y'all are
Yeah.
going through the rest of them.
So I got a question. How was this guy, B.L. Lawrence, how was he gonna do it for 4,000?
Well, I think that's why
I think maybe he's had second thoughts.
he withdrew his
I don't
bid.
think he's ever done the work before, and.
Then you go to
told him that
10,000.
if he bid, he could get, if he could get the certification here by July
I
first.
also think going $4,000 for the front part of City Park is a little
So when he
high.
called me today, he said he
Well, let's see what the number is
miscalculated on
exactly. I
acreage,
don't
or
wanna get
square
y'all, but
footage.
it's a
He
big,
But
miscalculated.
yeah, he withdrew
square
his
footage
bid.
wise, that's a big piece of ground compared to the medical center or the town square, I think.
But he's withdrawn his bid, and legally, you've got one bid. You could choose to rebid it, but I think probably I'd deal with, I mean, it's summertime.
And if you want to take Sea Park out, that's fine too. This Sea Park was added in response to the Sea Park committee's requesting prettier grass over there. I get
Okay,
it.
so Lawn Solutions for you last year was $7,075.
So we're getting the front half of Sea Park for just under $3,000.
But I think it's never been done before, so that's probably the cost to get it.
You save $6,000 on the generator, so you're still $3,000 ahead.
Yeah.
I do fuzzy math. All right, keep on going. We'll
Moving
take a,
on, new business, award lawn maintenance. We did receive several bids on this one. We received 4 bids, low bidder, if I'm not mistaken, was Hal at All About Grass.
just under the wire.
Yep, he just did squeeze it in. It's actually a little less than last year's bid, which was $14,280.
So All About Grass is low bidder of those 4 businesses for the,
The last item that we bid out was maintaining the welcome signs. There's 4 welcome signs in town, each of which has a flower planter. These are the older ones. And instead of us trying to pull weeds, we have been contracting this out. It seems to work quite well. We received 1 bid from Clay's Garden Center in the amount of $2,580, and that's the same as last year.
and they do a great job. The
Yeah,
plant
they look
planters
much better.
look really good. Members of council, you've heard the town manager's recommendation. We need a motion to approve that, and we'll need a roll call vote as well. Ms. Hasbrook's moved, Mr. Morgan seconded.
To contract for us to provide DMV services at the last minute, because it goes into effect July 1st. If you remember last year, I don't think we adopted it probably until August. But Brittany did review this. She is recommending agreement.
Mr. Miller seconded Mr. Colonel Tom's motion. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Committee referrals, there are none. The mayor's minute, I have nothing else to say that has not been said tonight. Topic, just personnel.
Personnel matters, I do have a letter that I would like to present to you, but I don't think that, well, no, I would like to discuss with you and present you a letter in regards to the acquisition of some town property, that somebody has presented in writing.
Okay.
We can do that acquisition and disposition of real property.
So we need a motion,
And we don't need the attorney for that.
okay, so we need a motion to go into closed session, discuss personnel. Thank you, Jacob.
Hi, everyone. Have fun.
You too. And also, prospective, sale or
Disposition of real
disposition of
property.
real property. Can you identify the property before we go, or would you prefer not to?
No, it's industrial park.
Okay, all right, very good, all right. Need a motion to go in closed session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All right, all in favor? We are now in closed session. What you want to do first?
Let's do the,